You believe that a part of him, you, that's not in the text, you believe that a part of him has been torn away by you, by your bill of divorcement. The classic picture of fear of retaliation from without then follows, because the severity of the guilt is so acute that it must be projected. Although Freud was wrong about the basic conflict itself, he was very accurate in describing its effects. Freud didn't say that the basic conflict was you and your bill of divorcement from your source that caused you to lose your sonship or daughtership and therefore your identity. Continuing. Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you. It is, however, only your acceptance of it that makes it real. If you enthrone the ego in it, the ego operating system, the fact that you have accepted it or allowed it to enter makes it your reality. This is because the mind, as God created it, is capable of creating reality. This mind that God created, that is your mind, is capable of creating reality. Not separate from God, with God. We said before that you must learn to think with God. To think with Him is to think like Him. This engenders joy, not guilt, because it is natural. Guilt is a sure sign that your thinking is unnatural. Again, if you'll just let that sink in, you will realize when you find yourself experiencing fear that you are experiencing something unnatural, not natural to you, not normal to you, not your birthright, and therefore invalid. None of you really is willing to be subject to an illusion. None of you would consciously choose to be deluded. And so when it does dawn on you that if you're experiencing fear, you're experiencing a delusion, which it's not your birthright to be experiencing, you will consciously choose to find a way to abandon the delusion so that you don't suffer from insanity, from something that isn't real. And that's what allows you to turn to your Father and say, Father, what does this mean? Is there justification for fear? What's the truth here that would uncover to me either the justification for fear or its total illusory nature and the fact that I need not honor it in any way, shape, or form? Father, help. And of course, thereby, you reestablish the connection. You undo the bill of divorcement. Even though you might be doing it as a last resort in a state of panic without any intent whatsoever to continue the relationship indefinitely. But it doesn't matter, because if the opening is there, the connection is made. And whether you choose to abandon it or not, later, the connection at that moment is not withheld from you.
Is fear ever justified?
The question is asked, is fear ever justified? Absolutely not. One doesn't have to be afraid in order not to stick his finger into an electrical socket. One can understand that it's not an intelligent thing to do and decide not to do it. Fear is not essential to intelligent action. Ever. But one has to be leaning into a source, you might say, of intelligence rather than a source of unintelligence, to have intelligence available that allows one to be without any occasion for fear. You see what I mean? Continuing. Perverted thinking will always be attended with guilt because it is the belief in sin. Oh, I know, you want to know why do I use words like perverted thinking? Can't you be a little kinder in your choice of words? I would get the message. Well, if I thought you would get the message with a weaker word, so to speak, I would use a weaker word. But it's important for you to know that a wrong thought is a wrong thought, is a wrong thought, is a wrong thought, is an untrue thought, is a thought that is not in harmony with God, is a thought that has converted for unloving purposes some aspect of the awareness of the kingdom of heaven, and it is perverted. Does that make you perverted? No. It means that you are simply what you have always been, the Christ, the perfect son or daughter of God, using your mind in a way that it can't actually be used, and believing the use you are putting to it, and suffering from your belief without anything that's real having been altered at all. So here you stand, or here you sit right now, listening to my words, from a place of distorted perception. And yet that which is listening is the unalterable living Christ, the Son and daughter of God. Not affected in any way, shape, or form by a fantasy that never became true. And so you are not perverted, but your perception is altered. And the alteration needs to be corrected so that you're not seeing reality through a lens that causes it to appear to be to you something that it's not. It's that simple. Continuing. The ego does not perceive sin as a lack of love. It perceives sin as a positive act of assault. This is the definition of willfulness. The energy and the means of accomplishing the establishment of an illusion as truth. And the coercion of your brothers and sisters into adopting the concept you're embracing and making commitment to it, so that in the joined strengths of what we could only call deluded Christs, you create for yourselves a state of mesmerism so total and so complete that it seems to you to be absolutely solid and real. Continuing, this is an interpretation which is necessary to the ego's survival. Because as soon as you regard sin as a lack, not a positive act of assault, you will automatically attempt to remedy the situation. And you will succeed. Those last 4 words are the key words. As soon as you regard sin as a lack, you will automatically, it's like naturally, spontaneously attempt to remedy the situation. Well, you're all used to attempting to remedy things. It may or may not work. But the last 4 words let you know, and you will succeed. Why? Because in order to do it, you have had to move to the other operating system. And from the other operating system, you are thinking with God. Continuing, the ego regards this as doom, but you must learn to regard it as freedom. That's also important. You must learn to regard it as freedom. It will not seem like freedom to begin with because you think you are an ego. The ego is what you think you are. And so when it sees doom, you think you are seeing doom. And so you have to bring into play some self-discipline so that when you feel the threat that accompanies a willingness to abandon sin, you can use reason and logic to remind yourself that the fear you're feeling is not legitimate, that the doom that you are feeling is not your doom, but the sense of yourself that you've been entertaining that's feeling the doom, and that for you, it means freedom. For you, it means coming back into your right mind. For you, it means having the Holy Spirit descend upon you and uncover itself as you, to you, and be you without any resistance from you. So be aware, it's going to take some self-discipline. You must learn to regard it as freedom. And you must persist with the learning until the shift occurs. And you have, each one of you, ample opportunities all day long to practice this. Continuing. The guiltless mind cannot suffer. It doesn't say that the guiltless mind doesn't suffer. It doesn't say the guiltless mind only suffers very occasionally. It says the guiltless mind cannot suffer. Suffering finds no lodging place in the guiltless mind. This place of excellence in you, it's already in you. Your right mind is already in you. Your right mind is already all there is to you. And it cannot suffer, and it is not suffering. And that experience is available to you if you'll simply wish to experience the other operating system. Of course, in order to experience the other operating system, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to abandon your independence. And how are you going to do that? You're going to say, God, help. You're going to have to invite something into your privacy. And you're going to have to be willing to abandon your right, your supposed right to privacy. And you're going to have to share your space with God, with the Holy Spirit. Well, I don't know if I want to be transformed by the presence of the Holy Spirit in my space. Who knows what that might mean? Well, you know, a few months ago maybe you could have said that. But now you know that the Holy Spirit is nothing more than your right mind. It's you with a capital Y. And so you can't claim through ignorance that you have no idea what it will be like to let the Holy Spirit share your space. You know that at the bottom line, it's going to have to mean you experiencing the omnipotence of what God is being right where you are. You know that it's going to have to mean experiencing the integrity of your union with all of your brothers and sisters. You know that it's going to have to mean the experience of invulnerability in your world, not because the world is hostile but it can't reach you, but because you and the world are one, and it is therefore benign, and it is because it is benign and you are benign that everything is invulnerable. Because there is nothing to be vulnerable against. Continuing, being sane, the guiltless mind, it heals the body because it has been healed. And I'm going to say it heals the world because it, the guiltless mind, your mind having abandoned the sin of trying to be independent, has been healed. And the scales have fallen from your eyes. The division, which is the nature and character of the ego operating system, has dissolved in the face of pre-existing, eternally pre-existing unity that was always available for you to experience. Continuing, the sane mind cannot conceive of illness because it cannot conceive of attacking anyone or anything. And if it cannot, this is me, not the text, if it cannot conceive of attacking anyone or anything, it likewise cannot conceive of being attacked by anyone or anything. The conscious experience of unity right here and right now in what you call the world is available to you to experience, because it is the unalterable truth of everything. And that's why, at the bottom line, it's worth your attention, your effort, your self-discipline to look at everything with new eyes and with a willingness to abandon a defense system that is always on high alert. Continuing. We said before that illness is a form of magic. It might be better to say that it is a form of magical solution. Magical. Fantastic. Fantasy. A groundless idea or set of ideas. A baseless set of ideas, treated as though it had substance to it, and believed and acted upon. Continuing, the ego believes that by punishing itself, it will mitigate the punishment of God. Yet even in this, it is arrogant. It attributes to God a punishing intent, and then takes over this intent as its own prerogative. It tries to usurp all the functions of God as it perceives them, because it recognizes that only total allegiance can be trusted. Well, this is true. Only total allegiance can be trusted. But you don't have anything available to you to give total allegiance to except that which is real. And giving total allegiance to a fantasy, to that which isn't real, is a non-event, is a non-action. It's interesting, isn't it, that it's like self-flagellation and self-punishment is a way of saying to God, I recognize my sins and I'm suffering for them. And therefore you don't have to punish me. But the one thing it doesn't say is, and I'm not going to indulge in my sins anymore. I'm not going to indulge in the act of self-will that causes me to experience myself as separate from you, Father. I'm not going to engage in acts of self-will that constitute an ongoing act of divorcement. You see, it doesn't say that. So it says, I will punish myself so that you don't have to, and so that I don't have to abandon my independence, which I value so highly. Even though, in order to maintain it, I must constantly punish myself. Continuing. The ego cannot oppose the laws of God any more than you can. But it can interpret them according to what it wants, just as you can. That is why the question, "What do you want?" must be answered. You are answering it every minute and every second. And each moment of decision is a judgment which is anything but ineffectual. You see? There it is again. That which is making the decision is the Christ that you are, the Holy Son or daughter of God that you are. And you cannot make an ineffectual decision. The only thing you cannot do is cause a second creation, separate and apart from God, to arise into existence. You can believe that you have, and you will suffer from the belief. Why? Because your decisions are not ineffectual for you. Continuing. Its effects, the effects of judgment, will follow automatically, and this is all capitalized words, until the decision is changed. Until the Christ that you are makes a new choice and a new commitment and therefore a new decision. Because your decisions cannot be ineffectual. Because of what you divinely are, even though you sit in this room and for the most part are in a constant state of denying the possibility that you are the Christ. You don't want to be the Christ. You might want to be the Christ if you could do it secretly and no one would know it. But the last thing you want to do is to get up in the morning and face your world and have the world see you glowing. And have the world feel the presence of God right where you are. Because you are afraid if you were that odd, you would be attacked. You would be ridiculed. You don't want to be the Christ. At least not publicly. And yet, the call is for you to look into your brother's or sister's eyes and remember God while you're looking them in the eye. There's no way to do that privately. But remember what I said. Being the Christ means being the presence of love with a capital L. And being the presence of love means being the on-the-spot, inspired, conscious awareness that knows how to be in such utterly simple but effective ways with your brother that all you might do is put your arm around that one's shoulder or smile or say, you know, maybe you don't need to be quite as afraid as you are. And here's why. Here's the way it looks to me.